Hey Jason,
Hello.
nice to have you here. You are effectively the second OpenBB champion,
Great.
and today we're super excited to have you. We're going to talk with you about your background, what have you done in the past, what do you do today, what's your end goal, and where OpenBB like entered in your journey, pretty much.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Thanks, Didier. Great to be here with you.
And yeah, so let's get started. Like, who is Jason? Like, what is your background, and how did you, yeah.
Gosh, well, it goes as we say, it's a nonlinear path. I think is the way that career coaches say it. So professionally, I've been in like capital markets and trading for 20 plus years. I remember distinctly trading my first stock when I was like 18, writing my first line of PHP when I was like 18, connected to the MySQL database, printed out a bunch of rows in an HTML table, and my mind was blown. Never looked back. So I don't have like I'm not a trained computer scientist, you could say, but I've literally been on computers programming since I've been probably 10 years old, 30 some years ago. So pretty intuitive in all the technology space. Went to uni, got out of college and did a couple jobs at some hedge funds in Chicago. So that's where I'm from, Chicago in the US. And first couple of funds I worked at blew up. Moved to JP Morgan, was there for 5 or 6 years during the height of the financial crisis, basically doing risk management, trading risk management for the time. Finished a master's degree in quant finance and trading in 2012 and moved to a derivatives trading business where I was looking after all of the credit risk, and moved to London doing something similar but on the market risk side, managing a team of risk quants, global team of risk quants. From there, I took a job in Singapore and was chief information officer for an agricultural trading business in Southeast Asia. That didn't end well for anybody, and left and did venture capital investing, fintech venture capital investing during 2017 to 2019. And for the folks that are listening in Southeast Asia, if you were paying attention in 2017, it was all crypto. So it was a big, I was the big crypto person for 2 or 3 years, doing a lot of investing in the region, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Singapore, of course, all over for a couple of years. And from there, got hired onto a metals trading company where I built the data engineering, analytics, and engineering team from scratch. So I hired almost 20 people on that team over about 2.5 years, and ultimately decided that being out of the country with 2 small kids for 10 years was enough, and started to agitate to get back to the US, again, where I'm from. Took a job with Amazon Web Services and did ProServe consulting for data and analytics. So I was building AWS infrastructure for capital markets companies in Southeast Asia, and then ultimately ended up back in Denver, Colorado, where I am right now speaking to you. And I am a program manager looking after all of AWS's data for our startup business. And I should add, so like, why are you and I talking? And I know we'll get into that. But in October 2022, I started a course to teach people how to use Python for quant finance and algorithmic trading. And I think we'll get into this because that's really how we met. But that's where I'm spending all of my free time. So I've got a pretty intense job at AWS, but get up really quite early in the morning to write for PyQuant News, which your listeners might have heard about. If not, you can go follow me at PyQuant News on Twitter, or go to pyquantnews.com. And then also working on a project with a really great guy called Matt Doncho. He's like the data scientist. Him and I are working on a series of courses to go very deep in Python for algorithmic trading. And you can check that out at quantscience.io.
Very nice. Thank you, Jason, for that
Yeah,
background.
my pleasure.
I'm curious, like the timeline. I mean, you had like a cushy job at AWS. Like, why did you start PyQuant News? How did that start, and how did you reach like 100,000 followers on Twitter, which is insane in a short period of time as well?
Yeah, good question. Well, let me correct one thing. It's definitely not a cushy job at AWS, but I would like PyQuant News has been actually like an overnight success that kind of took 7 years to build. Like literally in 2015, I started PyQuant News, and I was just posting. I had a website, and the whole intent was to just keep together all of the great content for Python and trading in one place for my own benefit. And I was building all this, and just being a builder and a tinkerer, put it all into like some local host web server, and then I built a WordPress site, and I started posting all the links that I was finding for everybody to see. And I was automatically creating tweets just because I wanted more people to see the content. And I was literally doing this for like 7 years, from 2015 to 2022. A couple times a month, I would just post a link, like, check out this cool thing, check out that cool thing. And I started paying attention. I had 4,000 followers from doing absolutely nothing. And so I put some energy into it because I really, really enjoy teaching and helping people get started with this stuff. Because it's just so hard to get your head plugged into the ecosystem and know where to start. And then within like 9 months, I went from 4,000 followers to where I'm at today, which is like 100,000. And of course, that's how you and I met.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I mean, I remember the first thread that you did on OpenBB. We hadn't like talked at all, but like that night, like we got so much traction. What was the reach of that thread again? The first one?
I think 16 million impressions over 4 days.
I remember checking your account, and you before, I think when I saw it, because I was actually on Twitter at the time when that happened, and as soon as I saw that, I shared on our Slack channel, and I was like, holy shit, like this is really good. And no one had written like a thread that good with that many like examples of what you can do and really like exploring the platform like ever. And even ourselves, like that, this was better than the threads that we put ourselves out. And then I saw your account, and I think you were like around 15K followers, and like 2 days after or 1 day after, you were 32 or something. And I was like, Jesus, like, that's a big jump.
Literally 2x'd my account. There was like, I mean, I'm unfortunately or fortunately, I'm a social media person. That's kind of like where I spend most of my time writing, and so I have to care about these things. But over 4 days, it had like 35,000 likes, like 16 million impressions. 16 million people saw that tweet. Absolutely bonkers. And yeah, maybe I can talk a bit about how you and I met, which is literally from that tweet. And when I wrote that, I mean, there were hundreds of people DMing me, asking me questions about OpenBB. Like, I have no idea. Like, I have never used this thing other than what I was talking about. And JJ, who's your JJ, right? Yep, JJ, yeah, right. Your investor, right? He reached out and was like just asking me some questions. I'm like, oh, I figured he was the inventor of OpenBB, and I'm talking to him in that way, and he's like, no, I'm not the guy. I just invested, and you got to meet this other guy. And I think he made the introduction, and it's kind of all history from there. We've been working really quite closely since then. Definitely a great relationship that we have where I'm using OpenBB extensively throughout my courses, throughout my content. And then, of course, you're there as well, helping promote some of the work that I'm doing as well. So it's been a really, really great relationship.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's been like, I still remember JJ introducing me to you, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna talk with this guy that did this thread, and I was like so excited. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And now putting a bit of OpenBB into the scope. So how did you came across OpenBB? Like, even before that thread, how did you find out about us? And why were you so excited? Because even like your threads before, they were never that into detail into a product, at least as far as I know. So what made you decide to write that thread on OpenBB? And
it's a good question. I mean, honestly, I don't remember where I came across OpenBB. It's probably just because as a content creator, I'm just scouring the internet constantly looking for interesting things to write about. It's probably how I came across it. And having been a Bloomberg user and also constantly struggling to get data in a way I can use in a fast and standard way. Both of those, I was like, oh my God, like this is Bloomberg, number one. It's a terminal interface, and having been like a developer for a long time, like I'm a console person, I'm a CLI person. So the ability to like go in and do all this stuff in the terminal was amazing to me. And I wrote about it because that's what I do online. That's what I do on Twitter. But having been using it, let me just digress a bit and talk about how it's kind of changed what I'm doing, right? So when I'm teaching students, so just a bit of background. In November, I launched the first cohort of my cohort-based course, and it was teaching people how to do quant finance and algorithmic trading with Python. And obviously you need data. And I had like Y Finance and some of the other libraries, Pandas Data Reader. And after I learned more about OpenBB, I completely wholesale switched everything, all of the content from, I'm talking about like 40 notebooks, from all sorts of different packages that I was using to get data, all sorts of different data manipulation, and I just stripped it all out, and I went right to the OpenBB SDK, 2-3 lines of code, replacing dozens of lines of code to do some of this stuff, and I never looked back. And after the second cohort, I started incorporating OpenBB really quite closely, and I think it was probably then where you guys would come and speak to the cohort. It was a January or maybe the March cohort. But it's really been a game changer for me as a teacher, as an educator, and for the students that are coming in and listening to me. I mean, I've put 750 people through these cohorts. All of them are now getting trained on the OpenBB SDK. And just some of the feedback from the students, they are always astounded after you and James and sometimes Tio come in and talk to the cohorts. They're always astounded at what you can do with OpenBB, and then I go deep into the SDK, and their minds are getting blown. So it's been a real game changer for me in the way that I teach teach beginners and people getting started with Python, and then how they're actually using it to acquire data. I mean, you remember, gosh, I can't remember the guy's name, but he linked up AutoGPT to, I think he's your first champion, right?
Derek.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's an alum of my course.
That's how he found out about this. Yeah.
Exactly. He met OpenBB from the course, and then he, obviously being a great mind and a great developer, he put AutoGPT along with OpenBB and did some amazing things. So the students are doing some really, really great things. Like even some of the folks that are using the options stuff, we've got a lot of options traders in the course, pulling down and now with like all of the expanded capabilities for days expiration, building straddles, all of this amazing stuff. The students are loving it. And so that's like the PyQuant news side. And for quant science, like we're going to do an entire set of modules on how to use OpenBB to research and build a portfolio, because this is the first step, right? You have a hypothesis, and this is where the power comes in. You have a hypothesis, but you need to test that hypothesis. And what I always say is this algo trading is a game of iteration. You can't spend 3 or 4 months trying to understand if a strategy has edge, because it probably doesn't. And you need to like iterate through these ideas extremely quickly, and OpenBB really helps you do that. So for quant science, we're going to go real deep in the terminal, showing people how to go through a lot of the functionality, how to come up with ideas, how to use the screeners, get a list of stocks they're interested in, and then from there use the the SDK itself to then get the data, build the returns, optimize portfolios, and then actually go through and execute those portfolios in a live brokerage account, in a live trading environment. And it all starts with the OpenBB terminal. So super powerful stuff. It's like changing the game as far as trading and investing workflows goes. Yeah, I'm super excited for that series of courses.
That's amazing. When is the quant science first cohort starting? That one is
ASAP. Matt asks me this like every week. What's the progress? What's the progress? What's the progress? If you want to, for the listeners, if they want to stay up to date, you can go to quantscience.io and join the waitlist. And all the waitlist is every week we're posting some content, some short content. Like our very first newsletter was OpenBB. And I will be just updating folks on where we're at. So it's kind of a build in publics theme. For example, today I will be showing the progress I've made on building the interface to the interactive brokers trading application, and walking through how folks can actually push a button and get all of their trades executed. So if you want to learn more, quantscience.io, you can join the waitlist to get notified of when the course is coming out.
That's super exciting. Do you expect that like students from PyQuant News will also join the Quant Science? Because like we from OpenBB we got such good feedback from PyQuant News. Also because some people are like, where can I learn more about OpenBB? And we have like really extensive documentation.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's not enough. You want someone to actually show you a use case, or how can you actually use it? Like have someone like to keep up, and I don't mind paying for someone because it's actually that valuable. And so we've been telling people like PyQuant News is the best course today that talks about OpenBB, and for the people that have gone and gave us feedback, like they were like really impressed and they really enjoyed their time. I mean, our community manager literally attended PyQuant News, and he told us that he was so valuable even for him that he's like from within the team, but for the beginner, he's like you strike the perfect amount between like complexity but simplicity in terms of like how to explain to do things, and also not just the core of things, but how to use like OpenBB in this case for data retrieval, but also pandas and other libraries that are useful. And I think the main learning thing and the recurrent topic is that you even have this concept, which is like the minimum viable Python, right? It's like you teach just enough so that people can actually get something done, and not just how do you say, keeping the infinite hell of learning?
Tutorial hell. Yeah.
Tutorial hell. That's the one. So yeah, so you expect then the students to go to Quant Science and they have like a more, then if I understand correctly, is going to be more in depth into like a use case proper investing. So you'll create like a portfolio, and then you go to the end of the spectrum, which is actually execution from an algorithm perspective. That's super exciting.
Yeah, that's right. So first of all, thanks for the compliment. Appreciate that. And yeah, Darren was in our cohort, and he's still in our Discord answering questions for folks, which I think is which amazing, is awesome. Yeah, he's amazing. So if you're listening and you're kind of new at this stuff, that's the key, right? Is just to get some progress made. And I think where a lot of people go wrong is they start to try to learn like the whole thing from scratch, and they don't have a goal in mind, right? So just a bit about the course while we're on the topic. Like I really teach focusing on a single problem that you need to solve, and I give you a framework to kind of think about that, and then from that problem you apply this concept of minimum viable Python, which is exactly what you said. You just learn enough that you need to know to continue to make progress towards that goal. And then you go backfill your knowledge as you need it. And as you know, like there's only so much complexity around computer science that you actually have to know to use the tools. And people lose sight of that it's just a tool to get the job done. And as long as you keep that in mind, you can continue progress. And OpenBB is perfect for that because it's so simple to use. Like one line of code and you've got all the data you need, right? And it just removes a lot of the complexity. So as far as like the course goes, it's a pretty broad treatment of quant finance in general. I go deep in some places, but I don't go super deep. And it's more geared towards like pretty early in the journey, like maybe have seen Python before, probably an Excel user, definitely a lot of discretionary traders come in the course. Quant Science is going to go very deep in algo trading. So this is like intermediate to advanced level stuff, very focused in only algorithmic trading, whereas the PyQuant News course is more broad around like what is quant finance? Like how do you get started with Python? What's the best libraries? How do you set up the libraries that you need to use these things? And then we kind of dive deep into algo trading because that's where most people care about. But quant science is going to get rid of like a lot of the intro stuff and just go very deep, end to end, building a strategy, hypothesize, test it, and then execute it. And OpenBB is going to be like featured prominently because it's so useful and so powerful.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. And so what are you looking in the future for OpenBB? Like I mean, like I can tell that from your explanation, like OpenBB is already like pulling a lot of weight for you and making you much easier to create content and teach people. But what could we do more to make it even better? Like what would you expect from us, let's say in like 6 months, 1 year?
Gosh, that's a good question. I know you and I have talked a lot about like custom data, and I think there's an opportunity to sell a commercial version of OpenBB to small investment shops or research advisors who need either another layer of support or some sort of customized data that can flow through. I'm super excited to see that set of features for like the professional user. The SDK changes a lot. You guys don't support Pandas 2 yet, even though your YAML file installs Pandas 2 and you pip install OpenBB, it uninstalls Pandas 2. So like some stability, which will come with the maturity of the product. I know that. But like the professional users, they kind of expect this kind of thing, right? And that's what I'm most excited for. Then you can start to get these types of folks in that really lack the tools or that don't want to spend $30K a year on Bloomberg, but they need that level of sophistication. They need that level of standardized data. I'm really excited to see where OpenBB can help those types of folks in the small investment shops, the family offices, even discretionary traders that need a professional version of the tool with some level of support from that perspective. But like as far as the core product feature goes, I think it's remarkable. Having like been doing this stuff for like over a decade, you can go to, here's a funny piece of trivia for you. You go to finance.jasonstrimpel.com. This is a tool that I built that you put in a list of ticker symbols and it goes and gets all of the data from all of the ticker symbols and it returns it to you in a single spreadsheet. I built this in 2011 because it was such a problem to go out and download data from all of these different sources and plug it all together. This is like Pandas version 0.3 we're talking. So there was like no remote data access. There was nothing. So this has been such a problem for such a long time. And I mean, there's a lot of different options in the market, but OpenBB is the best because it's everything in the same place. So as far as the future goes, I'm just going to keep on keeping on, making sure I can continue to install the SDK, continue to teach people, enable people how to use this tool, watch how it starts to go up market into more commercial users who need the pro version of it, and just sit on the sidelines and cheer you guys on.
That's really kind. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jason. And apart from OpenBB, what's the end goal for you? Like where do you want to take PyQuant News and Quant Science? Like what does success look like?
That's a good question. I haven't actually asked myself that because I'm just racing so fast. I don't really spend too much time to sit back and think about kind of things like that. But I really do enjoy teaching people this stuff. And it's because like you need to go spend $90,000 on a master's degree to get access to it. Or you can spend 5 years online on YouTube trying to put it together yourself. This is just like a really great way. This is what I wish I had, basically, right? I want to continue to expand PyQuant News. I want to help more people understand how to get into this space. I want to enable more people on Python in the quant space because it's absolutely fascinating. If you love to learn, if you are a curious person, the intersection of the markets and Python is like no better place to be. You have an infinite amount of complexity, an infinite volume of data to work with, the most powerful tools that mankind has ever put together, all at your fingertips, all for free. So it's a pretty remarkable situation to be in, and I want more people to be exposed to that, and I'll do that through PyQuant News, through the free content, through the newsletter, through the courses, and then Quant Science even deeper through the courses there as well.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Thank you. And I think this is like the last question I had.
Okay.
Is there any other remark that you want to, tell the listeners? Do you want to give your social media where they can follow your progress and what you're working on currently?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks for the offer. So my personal handle, I spend most of my time on Twitter. I'm at Jason Strimpel is my personal handle. I don't tweet very often there. But at PyQuant News, I am out there 3 times a day posting content on using Python for quant. Very few platitudes. It's mostly high value content that you can literally copy and paste code and implement. That's at PyQuant News. You can go to pyquantnews.com. That's where my past newsletter stuff is. You can subscribe to the newsletter there. You can sign up for the course. The September cohort is now open. There's a limited number of seats and they're actually filling up. Never have filled up as quick as they are now. So you've got some time left, but it's running short. So that's the PyQuant News side. To be released in the future, probably the next 60 days or so, is the Quant Science courses. So quantscience.io. The first course we're doing is a deep dive in algorithmic trading for Python. So a great way to do this is to take the PyQuant News course first to get a broad understanding of the landscape and then go into the Quant Science stuff when that's released in the next couple months. So at PyQuant News and quantscience.io. .io, the best places to find me. And thanks again for asking.
Nice. Thank you, Jason. This was a lot of fun, and
my pleasure.
look forward to do one of these again soon.
Yeah, anytime. You just say the word.